Carrion flowers. When we hear the word flowers, we think of fragrant, pretty, colourful, and all things bright and beautiful. Bees and birds love them, dogs like smelling them, and us people grow them. But nature sometimes plays tricks on us, because there are species of plants that are classified as flowers, but have the most disgusting and repulsive smells in the world. We call these vomit-inducing plants carrion flowers, corpse flowers, or stinking flowers, inspired from the scents they give off. Some species under the genre of these carrion flowers are characterized as foul-smelling: Bulbophyllum, Amorphophallus, Stapelia, Smilax, and of course, Rafflesia. Wherein one of the species classified under it, Rafflesia arnoldi, is considered the biggest flower in the world. Like other typical flowers, the goal of stinky flowers is also to attract those who like typically repulsive smells, like flies and dung beetles. These insects are the birds and bees version of normal flowers. They're the keys to pollination, the process of reproduction for flowering plants. The flies and beetles become attracted to the scent released by carrion flowers, prompting these insects to lay their eggs on the flowers. So the flies and beetles carry off the pollen from the flower to hopefully an opposite sex version of the same species of flower. But unlike normal pollination with normal flowers, where bees get nectar from flowers in exchange for carrying their pollen to other flowers, it isn't a mutual benefit for carrion flowers and flies. In fact, the flies and beetles that are attracted by the flowers lay their eggs there because they are deceived that what they went to was actually a rotting corpse or a decaying carcass. But the eggs die quickly because there's no food for the maggots to feed on. Because of their rarity and difficulty in reproduction, they have to mimic the smells that attract flies and dung beetles. Since flies and dung beetles love the smell of dead flesh, poop, and rotting carcasses, that's the smell carrion flowers will emit. Carrion flowers even raise their temperatures just to magnify the stench they produce. Stinking flowers produce various chemical compounds, like trimethylamine, that smells like rotting fish, isovaleric acid that smells like sweaty socks, indole, which smells like feces, and sulfide compounds such as dimethyl trisulfide that smells like rotting meat and Limburger cheese, and dimethyl disulfide that smells just like garlic. It's also important that only selected species of flowers have the characteristic of foul smells, because if many other kinds of flowers have this trait, flies and dung beetles may develop an alarming sense in them to stay away from these smells if they encounter these more frequently. It's also quite a relief, because who wants more flowers to smell horrible? Stink flowers even resemble the colour of blood and flesh, ranging from shades of red and brown to just convince flies to go to that exact location where the pollen is. Some species even trap the insects for a while just to make sure the pollen sticks to them. In over a century, only a few flowers bloom, and they only last for a few days. But it takes them years, even decades, to grow, and it's only because of scientific advances that these plants can be grown and cultivated more frequently, but still with much difficulty. Carrion flowers are usually gigantic, and they can be found deep within forests, where there's a lot more biodiversity than anywhere else on land. Not to mention, they're also hard to find, which is important for these species because their growth and existence is a long and difficult process. So, if you plan to raise one in your garden, it definitely won't live long. Aposematism. Do you sometimes get the first impression that some animals are poisonous? Like, if you see them for real, you'd be afraid to get in physical contact with them because you might get poisoned. Well, fear not, because there's an explanation for that. The poisonous look, though may not be primarily designed for humans, is a real thing. Different species of animals employ forms of conspicuous signals like colors, patterns, and appearances to warn predators that they are poisonous or dangerous to approach or eat. An example is the poison dart frog. They have vivid colors and patterns that are too noticeable in their rainforest habitat. Now, if you're a snake or a bird who's looking into a rainforest for food, it's so easy to spot a creature so brightly coloured in a place where everything is mostly dark green and brown. But the poisonous frogs don't bother to conceal themselves because they are protected by the toxins they produce underneath their skins. Anyway, this thing where animals, instead of camouflaging or hiding themselves to prevent being harmed or eaten, does the exact opposite by showing off very noticeable colours and patterns to ward off predators. It's called aposematism. It's a defence mechanism for those species of animals who are incapable of camouflaging or concealing. Instead of hiding, animals use their very prominent features to signal predators that they're dangerous prey. These warning colours that indicate a species is dangerous to eat or approach are usually yellow, red, orange, black, and white, or a combination of these. Other forms of defenses don't necessarily have to be poisonous or taste disgusting. Some use their vivid colours and patterns as warning that say they have a mean bite or they're venomous, just like the Gilia monster, who's big and slow, making it hard to escape predators. It uses its bright black and orange colours to signal danger. Basically, animals with these prominent and vivid features warn predators not to approach them because the predators will be in trouble. So, aposematism benefits both creatures. Because this phenomenon is a very useful self-defense mechanism against predators, other species of animals have learnt to mimic these aposematic colours. There are two kinds of mimicry that involve aposematism. One is called Batesian mimicry, named after Henry Walter Bates, a naturalist who studied butterflies in the rainforest. And notice this phenomenon. Batesian mimicry is when a non-toxic or palatable animal, or the mimic, copies the colours, patterns, sounds, or odours of the original aposematic animal or the model. A good example is the coral snake and the milk snake. Both snakes have the same colours, red, black, and yellow, and band patterns in their bodies. But the venomous coral snake has the red colours on yellow, and the harmless milk snake has the red colours on black. Nevertheless, the two are effectively confusing. Another example is the hoverfly. Hoverflies, just like bees and wasps, have the memorable black and yellow colours, but hoverflies are generally harmless and do not sting. The other kind of mimicry is called Müllerian mimicry, named after Fritz Müller, who also studied butterflies in the rainforests. The Müllerian mimicry involves one harmful species imitating another harmful species, just to let possible predators know that they are also harmful. Contrary to earlier studies, the monarch and the viceroy do not exhibit Batesian mimicry because the latter was also found to be unpalatable, like the former. So both species of butterflies both have the orange and black patterns on their wings, both signalling to predators that they are not suitable to eat, therefore exhibiting Müllerian mimicry. So there we have it. Sometimes the most noticeable and most prominent looking animals are the dangerous ones. And we must learn to approach them with caution. Cuckoo missiles. Pheromones. In the big wide world, it's hard to find similar species as you. Well, for animals at least. So how do animals find each other when they live on the opposite ends of a safari or a rainforest? Over time, different species of animal have developed their own methods of communicating with each other through evolution. These come in the form of chemical signals that we call pheromones. So, how do pheromones work? Usually, animals release chemicals that will be their sort of signature scent. And these scents send messages to another organism of the same species. These pheromones are composed of various chemical compounds secreted by the animal, and the molecules of these compounds vary in size, depending on whether the signals were carried through the air or water, or whether they're received through the nose or antennae. There are different types of pheromones: alarm, aggregation, trail, releaser, primer, signal, territorial, sex, and epidemic. Although we're only going to tackle the most common ones. One of the most common pheromones are usually for reproductive purposes, or sex pheromones. Animals release these kinds of pheromones that attract the opposite sex, so this becomes sort of a signal that the organism is ready to mate and produce offspring. A few examples of sex pheromone compounds are bombicol, which female silk moths use to attract males. We also have serotonin, which was found to be secreted by female cigarette beetles. The queen bee, as she stays in the beehive and doesn't fly about the earth looking for mates, releases the QMP, or the incredibly complex queen mandibular pheromone, to attract mates. Sex pheromones are usually used in farms and fields to attract insects so they don't end up destroying crops. These kinds of pheromones are also used in order to capture insects for studying. There are also what we call alarm pheromones, or those compounds animals use to induce a fight or flight response. A few examples of alarm pheromones would be isoamyl acetate, which heavily smells like bananas or pears. There's also 1-pentanol, a possible gasoline substitute that definitely doesn't smell great, but the esters it forms with different acid compounds smell like fruit. And butyl acetate, which can be found in many fruits and used as an artificial flavouring in foods. The alarm pheromones produced by honeybees contain butyl acetate. What people do, especially those working with insects and other animals, is that they release smoke or some other gas in order to mask the effects of the alarm pheromones, so that the species would remain calm and not attack or flee. Another common pheromone type would be trail pheromones. For trail pheromones, remember the time when you see a line of ants on a wall or on the floor? The reason why there are so many ants formed in two lines is because of trail pheromones. They release compounds to mark where they've been from their territory to a food source, and these compounds attract more ants, which will be guided back to the food source or their territory. But these compounds are volatile as the food source diminishes over time, or interferences, like humans, can destroy the trail, such as when we spray the ants with water or bug repellents. Other pheromone types include territorial pheromones, to send signals to other species regarding spaces or territories. Releaser pheromones that trigger behavioural change on the receiving organism. and many other types that enable different animals to communicate, whether with the same species or with other organisms. Idiomatic behaviour. How would you feel when in the middle of the night you see a pair of eyes staring at you? It's terrifying, isn't it? In our discussion today, eyes, or what looks like eyes, will be our starting point. A lot of species are food for bigger animals, so their body compositions have to help them not be eaten. One of the forms of defensive behaviours is called aposematism. Aposematism demonstrates more flashy, conspicuous behaviours by species of animals to communicate potential harm through the bright colours and patterns, distinct sounds, or remarkable scents interpreted as warning signals by possible predators. Other non-potent species mimic the colours of the potent species, also to avoid being preyed upon. But there's another type of animal defensive behaviour that demonstrates the warning colours and patterns of aposematism, but with a surprise. This is called idiomatic behaviour, or idiomatic display. The word idiomatic comes from the Greek word diametu, which means to frighten. If aposematic behaviour involves open displays, warning colours as signals, species that demonstrate idiomatic behaviour are quietly camouflaged at first, but upon sensing danger, these species reveal startling features that will surprise the predator and thus give them a moment to escape. The most striking features of idiomatic displays are eye spots, which are usually found in several species of butterflies, moths, fish, and birds, like the blue peacock, where we can see the big iridescent spots on its feathers, which are nice to look at for us, but not so much as for those who wish to harm them. The eye spots are a form of mimicry, imitating the eyes of another animal to startle a possible predator. Of course, the bright colours are still a characteristic of a idiomatic display, but features like eye spots are what makes them distinctive from aposematism. Usually the species that demonstrate idiomatic behaviour have their striking features hidden and will only reveal them when they sense the predator. For instance, a peacock usually has its iridescent feathers with eye spots down, but to scare off some animals, it'll raise its feathers, making it look bigger and more intimidating. Mantises have what is called pseudo-pupils that can only be seen when they're being attacked. Basically, the general features of animals that demonstrate idiomatic behaviour are that they have one part of their anatomy that's plain and boring looking, and the striking part that's usually hidden at first is where the bright colours, eye spots and other patterns that work similarly with aposematic animals. Because of the surprise attack element of idiomatic behaviour, it's not surprising if we think that species that demonstrate this defensive mechanism gives out a dishonest signal, because animals are not flagrant about their supposed unpalatability. But actually, idiomatic behaviours are both demonstrated by both palatable and unpalatable species. An example of a palatable creature would be mantises. No species of mantis is poisonous or unpalatable, but some species with idiomatic display, like mountain katydids, are toxic. At normal circumstances, mountain katydids are well camouflaged. They can blend into rocks and branches, but when approached, they reveal a bright red and blue striped abdomen below their wings. Their idiomatic display is important as they have a clumsy flight response, so it gives them a little more time to escape predators. There are some cases, however, that a species can be both considered aposematic and idiomatic. A rattlesnake, for instance, can startle inexperienced predators with its rattling sound, making it idiomatic. But for the experienced predators, who already are familiar with the rattle, avoid the rattlesnake, making a deliberate, honest signal, thus becoming aposematic. It's wonderfully confusing. at least for us who don't need to feed on these animals, because it's difficult to figure out which ones can be eaten or not. And that's exactly the point of these kinds of defenses. That's all the time we have for today. But before we go, let's take a quick recap about the things we talked about in this episode. Carrion flowers are the unorthodox perception of flowers, for they are rare, big, and very unpleasant. Other terms are stink flowers and corpse flowers. The biggest flower in the world, Rafflesia arnoldi, is a carrion flower. These flowers are difficult to find and reproduce, and could breed through cross-pollination by attracting flies and dung beetles. Aposematism is a form of signalling that enables protection for both prey and predators. By giving signs of poison and danger through showing off the bright colours and patterns on their epidermal layers that do become associated with inedibility. Subspecies have developed mimicry based on aposematism. In order to avail the protection aposematic colours give. Cuckoo misdirection demonstrates the mimicking abilities of a female cuckoo in order to find host nests to hatch her eggs. The female mimics a cry of a predator bird in order to frighten the hosts, leaving them vulnerable. Thus, the cuckoo can seize the chance to drop her egg on a host nest. Animal pheromones are the chemicals secreted and released by different species to communicate with other organisms. There are various types serving different purposes, ranging from reproduction to trailing to alarms. Some pheromones are also specific to one species of animal. Finally, diomatic behaviour is another type of defensive behaviour in animals that also involves mimicry. It's the opposite of aposematism, because while aposematism works by blatantly showing or signalling its danger or unpalatability, diomatic behaviour relies on the element of surprise to startle predators in order for species to flee to safety. In our world, there are many great things. That defy the norm. Whether it's a marvel that takes the world by storm, or a phenomenon hidden away in a humdrum form. These spectacles give us thoughts to ponder, challenge ideas that we thought were blunder, and all other things that make us wonder. Chromatic adaptation. Perhaps we remember the infamous dress, where the world was divided into people who see a white and gold dress and a blue and black dress. Or the shoe that came in 2 years later and split people again into seeing a teal and grey or a pink and white sneaker. Some people attribute it to the photo taken in bad lighting. Others attribute it to photo colour alterations or photoshopping. Although the way the photo was taken contributes to the reason why people see colours differently, these reasons may not be enough to explain why people perceive different colors in the exact same photo. Several people offered theories and explanations why some people see a white and gold dress and some see a black and blue, one of which is called chromatic adaptation. Chromatic adaptation is a capability of human vision to adjust to different lighting settings in order to preserve the object's original colors. Because the original image of the dress was a bit closed in on the dress and gave little to no clues regarding its surroundings, the brain will either interpret the dress as white and gold in blue-tinted lighting, like the dress was placed next to a window, or a blue and black dress in artificial, yellowish lighting, as if it was inside a boutique or a mall. Neuroscientist Bevel Conway also says that the way people see the colors of a dress is related to how the brain interprets daylight colors. When the brain ignores the blues, the person will see white and gold, and if the brain ignores the yellows, the person will see black and blue. But to set things straight, the original color of the dress is blue and black, based on other images of the dress. But scientists never said that the people who saw white and gold are wrong or visually impaired. However, this was considered a victory to those who saw blue and black all along, because the dress really sparked huge debates in different parts of the world. Another explanation for the dress is color consistency, or the capability of the human vision to perceive colors of an object almost constantly, despite the object being exposed to different kinds of lighting. To put it simply, the brain sort of corrects the images it perceives when the colors get all wrong. A demonstration of color consistency is the grey strawberries photo. Despite the fact that there are no red colors in the photo, only green and grey, people still see the strawberries as red because the brain has already established that strawberries are red. Unlike the dress, there were no heated debates whether the strawberries are grey or red. People just knew it was red. Several sources say that in terms of discussing colour vision, chromatic adaptation and colour constancy are the same. Some say that the former is just a mechanism of the latter, but based on the examples of colour illusions, the two visual abilities may be different. Some papers argue that these two may even be a dichotomy. But there's one more unlikely factor that may also affect one's perception of colour. Although not related to the sense of vision, did you know that language also plays a factor in the perception of colour? Colour may not be as universal as we think. Speakers of languages which have no exact words for lighter and darker colours also tend to perceive colour differently than speakers of languages which have clearly defined words for them. This suggests that speakers of different languages are trained to recognise colours differently. But as for the explanation for the dress phenomenon, we'll probably stick with the term chromatic adaptation 1. Only special few species of animal have developed the ability to change colours, usually for our amazement and for their survival, such as avoiding detection by predators, or for signalling similar species of the opposite sex for reproduction. Colour changing can be a form of camouflage, an ability of some species to blend in with the environment they're in to trick or deceive potential predators into not noticing them. Now, every organism has pigment-containing cells called biochromes in their bodies, which are responsible for the coloration of their eyes, hair, feathers, fur, and skin. Organisms have different kinds of biochromes depending on what colors are present in the structures and parts of their bodies. For example, in humans, we have melanocytes, cells that produce the pigment melanin, which is responsible for the colors of our skin, hair, and eyes. All organisms possess pigment-containing cells, but not everyone possesses the capability of color changing. If we think about color changing, the most popular species of animal associated with color changing is the chameleon. But there are also frogs, octopus, cuttlefish, and squids that can change their colors, whether for signaling or hiding from predators. What these species capable of color changing have in common is that they are all ectotherms, or organisms that rely on external conditions to regulate body temperatures. Those who can't produce their own body heat, or to put it simply, those who are called cold-blooded animals. These color-changing species have special cells called chromatophores. Because cold-blooded animals rely on external factors, such as changes in season or changes in the amount of sunlight that hit them, to vary the colors seen through light and colors activated through pigments. For octopuses and squid who live underwater, their chromatophores have these special muscles that contract and expand like paint-filled balloons. Because the pigment becomes more spread out and less contracted when expanded, the resulting colors become lighter. Because squids and octopuses use color and pattern-changing camouflage, their chromatophores are active 24/7, ready to mimic or at least blend to other things in their environment, like corals or underwater plants. Chromatophores are controlled by the organism's nervous and muscular systems, taking signals from the environmental stimuli. Chameleons, on the other hand, also use color-changing camouflage, but studies have also found that they can and will change colors even if they're not in danger. Color changing is not just a tool for survival. It can also be used for expressing moods or signaling potential mates and other chameleons. Because chameleons are cold-blooded, they rely on the amount of sunlight to regulate temperatures. If they want to feel warmer, they'll absorb more sunlight, thus turning their colors darker. And if they want to cool themselves, they'll reflect more sunlight, meaning their appearances look lighter. Color changing for chameleons also rely on environmental stimuli, like when a rival chameleon threatens one's territory, or if a female chameleon signals males that they're ready to mate. Chameleons have multiple layers of chromatophores, and each kind of chromatophore gives off a specific color of pigment, such as xanthophores for yellow pigments, erythophores for red-orange pigments, and cyanophores for blue pigments. And underneath all the layers, they also have melanophores, cells containing brown pigment. Chameleons also have iridophores, cells that help reflect and absorb light for functions mentioned before. Chameleons change colors when they detect threats, like when another chameleon challenges them for their territory. Like octopuses and squids, the chameleon chromatophores are also signaled by the nervous system, depending on changes in temperature and mood. Because chameleons have many layers of different kinds of chromatophores, they can change into multiple combinations of colors and patterns. And each color and pattern that's visible depends on which chromatophores expand and contract. To summarize, the magical substance that makes color changing in animals possible are the pigment-containing cells called chromatophores. And when it comes to the subject of color changes or color mixing, it usually boils down to light and pigments. How do we see the color pink? We learn in physics the reason why we see certain colors on objects depends which colors of visible light get absorbed and reflected. Light, both a particle and a wave, has 7 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And these 7 colors correspond to different lengths and frequencies. Now, for instance, When we see a green ball, it's because when the light hits the ball absorbs all colors except green. That explanation is also applicable for a red chair, an orange shirt, a yellow umbrella, a violet balloon, and so on. Whatever color we see is the color reflected by the object. When all 7 colors get absorbed by an object, we see the color black. If all colors get reflected, we perceive the object to be white. But of course, there is the question, what about those colors that are not included in the Roy G. Biv and are not black or white? What about the beloved color pink? Since there is no color pink in the visible light spectrum, therefore, there's no pink light. So does that mean pink is not a color? How do we see other colors that are not Roy G. Biv, like brown, grey, or turquoise? And of course, pink. Before we fully understand how we can see colors like pink, we have to understand how our eyes see color first. So, at the back of our eyes, specifically in the very sensitive retina, there are these things called photoreceptors, which have 2 types, rods and cones. Rods are those that respond to the presence and absence of light. Cones come in 3 kinds: red sensitive, green sensitive, and blue sensitive. Seeing the color pink lies within the activation of those cones. When light gets through the backs of our eyes, the cones will display different kinds of behavior. To perceive some colors, our eyes only need 1 kind of cone to be activated. Some need 2, and some need all 3. It only differs on the levels of how much the cones are activated and which kinds of cones dominate over the others. The activated cones will send a message to the brain to interpret the color that we're seeing. Now remember, our cones in the retina are red, green, and blue sensitive. These colors, or the RGB, are the primary colors of additive mixing, where colors are mixed using light, and all colors combined results to white. The way our eyes see color can be explained through additive mixing because we use light to see. The additive coloring can also be used to explain the colors for photography and video productions. But not all colors that we see are due to addition. There's also what's called subtractive mixing, where instead of light, pigments and dyes are used to mix colors. This is how art and print produce colors. The combination of all colors is black, as opposed to white in additive mixing. Primarily, the colors cyan, magenta, and yellow are used in subtractive mixing. That's why when we print or paint pictures, it's possible to have pink in them. Now, going back to seeing pink. Okay, there is no pink in the visible light spectrum. Therefore, there is no pink wavelength, and therefore no pink light. Going back to the very first explanation regarding visible light, an object appears pink because certain wavelengths of light, probably red and violet, and the rest are absorbed and quelled by the pigments from the object that look pink to us. So, we can see pink because our brains can interpret pink from the light bouncing off from the object. Remember the RGB cones in the retina? The way we see, interpret, and produce colors from different sources is a collective effort from light, pigments, our eyes and brain, and color mixing. So to put everything simply, pink may not be the Roy G. Biv, but we can mix colors from Roy G. Biv to produce other colors like pink, whether using light or pigments. Blue wings, blue feathers. Perhaps no one has really noticed, but the color blue in nature is quite rare. We already know that water is not really blue. It's clear and colorless, if it's not polluted or mixed with anything. The sky is also not blue all the time. It's just that the blue light waves coming from the sunlight is spread most widely by molecules in the atmosphere because it travels in shorter, more frequent waves than other colors. The point is, the sky is not consistently blue. At certain periods of the day, like at dawn or sunset, it's sometimes colored red, orange, and yellow. Going back, blue in nature is quite rare. Some of the animals that are blue are the morpho butterfly, the male blue peafowl, bluebirds, blue poison dart frogs, and other species probably with the name blue on them too. Some of these blue-colored creatures are not even producing blue pigments. They just depend on how their anatomies are structured, like the wings of the morpho butterfly and the feathers of the bluebirds and peacocks. In order to understand how the little arrangements in wing scales and feathers affect the colors, we have to understand how light works. The light that we see is a wave that has multiple colors, and each color has different wavelengths. These different colors can be seen when light passes through a prism and gets bent or refracted. These waves also have what we call troughs and crests. When a number of light waves hit the surface of the wings and the feathers, two things can happen. One is what's called constructive interference. That's what happens when the waves are in phase, or the crests and troughs can be stacked on other crests and troughs. As a result, the color of the light becomes more amplified. On the other hand, destructive interference is what happens when waves are out of phase, or when crests of one wave collide with troughs of another wave, and vice versa. As a result of this collision, the light waves become cancelled out, and that color does not make it into our eyes. Now, going back to the butterfly and the bird, the light reflected upon their wings and feathers respectively relies on how their formations are arranged. Upon microscopic examination, the morpho's blue wings have little ridges on them, which are arranged into patterns of what looks like pine trees. When light hits the surface of the wings, only the blue light has the perfect wavelength to form in-phase wave formations that will result in an amplified blue color. Other colors get cancelled out in the pine tree-like patterns. The bird feathers are structured differently. They're more like-formed from layers of little scattered beads that only allows blue light waves to get reflected on the surface. Due to evolutionary improvements, butterfly wings and bird feathers are waterproof. Water's presence in these animals' environment is huge and frequent because they live in rainforests. This is important to how we perceive these animals' color because water can change the refractive index of the wings or feathers. Refractive index is the angle at which the light bends while passing through the wing and feather patterns, and this can affect the color we see from these species. Thanks to the waterproof features on the wings and feathers, we still see the color blue on them. So there we have it. But in other cases of blue appearances, it's not about bending the light in a certain way to reflect blue color, but using other color pigments and modifying them into something blue looking. But that's a story for another day. Snow camouflage. Summers and winters are the polar opposites of seasons. Summer is the time where it's warm, the sun is shining the brightest, and plants are mostly green and brown, whereas in winter, everything is cold. Everything is barren, and everything is covered with white snow. Different species of animals have developed various ways to cope with the changes in seasons, because changes in seasons also mean changes in length of daytime and nighttime. Organisms exhibit photoperiodism, a physiological response to these kinds of changes. Some hibernate and estivate. And then there's also another kind of color-changing camouflage called snow camouflage, where animals have different colors during the winter and summer to survive the changes in temperature and to avoid standing out, easily spotted by predators. The key to camouflaging lies in the outward appearances: fur, skin, scales, feathers, because the purpose is really just to hide or blend in the surroundings, so it is not necessary to change other body compositions. So the prime subject to these color alterations are these biological components. The case of snow camouflaging is different from the typical color-changing process. Animals who can snow camouflage are mostly mammals and birds, or warm-blooded animals. So color changing for them is not the same for chameleons and octopuses that are cold-blooded. Temperatures have different functions and effects on these species, affecting even other physiological processes that aren't related to color changing. That's why the color changing process has to be different for cold-blooded and warm-blooded animals. As usual, light plays an important role to the coloration of feathers and furs. In the eyes, at the retina, there's a photopigment that can detect the amount of light called melanopsin. Melanopsin is involved in the regulation of organisms' circadian rhythm, or in simpler terms, body clock. Now, the cells containing melanopsin will send signals to the different parts of the brain, and then the brain will sort of send a command to the cells to increase or decrease melanin production. The more amount of light detected, the more melanin will be produced. This process with the melanopsin also helps us understand why, in the entire history of the human race, those living in warm and tropical regions of the world usually have darker skin colors, while those living in the temperate regions have lighter skin colors. It's an evolutionary and survival thing. Now, going back to snow camouflage during winter, when there's little light, the melanopsin will signal the brain, which in turn will signal melanin-containing cells to produce less pigment. That's why Arctic foxes, snowshoe rabbits, stoats, and other species capable of snow camouflage have white furs and feathers. In the summer, where white will be very noticeable in green and brown surroundings, the animals will go through a process called molting, where they shed their winter furs and feathers and grow new ones in preparation for the summer. The new feathers and furs are now darker, usually different shades of brown, and the same process goes when winter comes, only that animals will now have to adjust to colder temperatures and blend into snowy white surroundings. Most mammals and birds are covered with fur and feathers, respectively. But the thing is, furs and feathers are like hair and nails to humans. They're made of dead cells, which means it's impossible to alter their composition once they're out there. Like when an Arctic fox has brown fur, it can't have white fur unless the brown fur sheds off completely. This is why, unlike chameleons who can just change colors in a snap, animals who snow camouflage have to undergo molting to change colors, and moreover, they're only limited to summer and winter colors. That's all the time we have for today. But before we go, let's take a quick recap about the things we talked about in this episode. Chromatic adaptation is the ability of humans to adjust to changes in brightness to keep up with the appearance of colors. This is the reason why we are able to perceive colors properly, even though lighting in real environments change constantly. Color changing in animals are developed adaptations, which the animals use for various applications, such as signaling their species or as a way to hide from predators. Animals that can change color have specialized cells called chromatophores that can alter pigmentation and light-reflecting properties. We are able to see pink because our brains are able to perceive variations in light and color. Although pink as a wavelength does not exist in the light spectrum, it is our brains that process the light in such a way that we are able to perceive combinations of colors, thus giving us a way to see colors like pink. Blue rarely exists in nature, but due to evolution, structural features in the wings and feathers of some animals allow light to bend in ways that make it possible to reflect the color blue. And finally, snow camouflage is a type of camouflage that certain creatures use to hide during winter. It is typically characterized by differing shades of grays and whites.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.